Hey, we do it every day at 7 o'clock. We're glad you're here for Talking Silver and Black. Make sure you're subscribed to this portion of the show. Make sure you're liking it on a regular basis and watching us live. We take great pain in our appearance, something I didn't think we'd have to as radio guys, but here we sit. So make sure you're subscribed, watching us there live on the YouTube channel. Alperen Şengün's his name. Scored 45 points last night, had 16 rebounds and 5 steals against our young, soon-to-be defensive player of the year runner-up, or maybe not even voted for, according to Draymond. But really, we saw the Houston Rockets do to Wemby what will be the prescriptive method to beat Wemby for the rest of his career. Beat him up.
Wemby's going to see Alpy over his shoulder all day today. I mean, this was Alpy's got some free rent in Wemby's mind as a result of last night. This was the worst game that Wemby's ever played as a professional.
It was.
And I know that there's not a long list there to choose from. This was not just bad. This was really bad, and that's okay. I mean, hey, it's going to happen, and we're kind of used to coping and finding the moral victories in all of this. But this was getting outworked, out-physicaled, outdone, out-hustled, outrun, outshot, outlucked. I mean, it everything that could go wrong went wrong. Our pets' heads were falling off all over the place.
And despite that, it was a competitive game till the end. I mean, both teams didn't play well. Alpy played better. I want to read to you a text exchange that my brother and I went through last night because
Hassan.
I was at home. He was at home. He's going through the same thing I've gone through forever. And a lot of people are dealing with the Bally situation. He doesn't have direct access to the Spurs, so he's having to watch them through the cracked streams.
This is so silly, but I want to hear the text. But
so here we sit. So
stupid problem.
As we're getting ready for the game, my brother texts me and says, are you watching the pregame? And I said, yeah. He goes, well, I'm watching the other side. This is what they said.
You mean the Rockets broadcast?
The Rockets broadcast. That's the one he was forced to watch. And it said this is in particular about Alperen Şengün. They call him Alpy. He's going to go through the chest of Wemby and get him in foul trouble. And then the Spurs really don't have any kind of backup. Zach Collins will fill in. I wonder how many dunks we'll have today. That was the quote pregame as the Rockets were getting ready to host the Spurs. So obviously they'd been talking to Ime Udoka, still the most frightening coach in all the NBA. And they had told him, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go beat them up. With these young guys, we're going to go get in their chest, and we're going to beat them up. And we had Alpy flexing within 2 minutes of the game. And it never got better there. Now, the Spurs, to their credit, in an ugly game, kept it moderately close and had the leads. When was the last... What's your favorite stat? The probability of win.
Probability?
Find the moment where the probability of win left the Spurs and entered the Rockets. It was in the fourth. The Spurs held pretty tight for a long time. So I'm trying to defend what I'm about to. I'm trying to defend a team that I'm about to blow up. Because
to reframe, or just to frame properly what this is, ESPN tracks the win probability of a given game at every moment in time. And something we like to do, as Rob mentioned, is look at the last time, if the Spurs lost, that they held a positive win probability. So from that point on, it dipped, and they never, by evaluation standpoint, had a chance of winning the game. What would be your guess, Rob? Last moment in the game where Spurs had a positive win probability?
8 minutes to go, 7 minutes to go. I mean, we were
nowhere close.
Not even close.
Not even kind of close. It was with 10-11 to go in the third.
Oh, in the third.
The Spurs had a 52.6% win probability, went up 55-52, and then Houston took over about 30 seconds later. Even while trailing 55-52, it became Houston with a 51.1% win probability. And while there was some jump back to middle ground across the rest of the game, it was in Houston's control from that point on.
Well, that wasn't pretty. And what did Pop? Well, we've got a little bit of Pop post game. I didn't expect him to be as mad as he was, to be honest with you. But he came out hopping mad because an uninspired performance from Victor Wembanyama was really the primary issue. There was a moment or two there where he wasn't a player. He was just a participant.
Well, so Jalen Carroll says in the Brigade Bar, Wemby is not consistently good enough for the Spurs to be a good basketball team. Spurs are as good as Wemby is. I think this is a great point because he's amazing, but he's still a rookie. I mean, he's amazing, but he's still learning so much of this, and so to put so much expectation on him is not only not wise, but it's unfair. It's unfair to him. It's unfair to the team, and that's why we allow ourselves to get swept up in the emotion of the 5x5 and the Wemby and the WT and all this cool stuff. But proclamations like, oh, he's the definite defensive player of the year this year really did feel premature. You want to give him rookie of the year? Duh. We're all fine with this. And it was stupid to argue that he shouldn't be rookie of the year because of the success of his team. But there is a larger argument to be made in that sense relative to defensive player of the year. Draymond Green spoke about this. Well, look, again, it's fair to say that the Spurs aren't a great defensive team, so it's hard to say that Wemby is, deserving of defensive player of the year in that regard.
Let's listen to Draymond and we shall retort.
He's currently second in odds to win defensive player of the year, although I can't quite agree with that because they have the 24th best defense in the league. Now, that's where you kind of get into like his team is not that good, they're young, blah, 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 but what he's doing is incredible. But you just can't move the line like that. Like, you're not allowed to, just because he's young and the team is bad, a guy on the 24th best defense in the league can win defensive player of the year.
I think that you have an argument, Draymond. I think that does make some sense. But what's the name of the award again?
Are you being pedantic? It's defensive player of the year.
Player.
But
player.
Dude, you're supposed to elevate your team, and
I think he has. But I think they'd be the 30th worst defense without him.
If the award is made your defense better than anybody else made their defense player of the year, then yeah, I think Wemby wins it. But he got worked last night, dude. I mean, you killed him when he got worked.
He got worked. He did last night.
He got worked
First
like
time.
a month and a half ago by Joel Embiid, and we chalked that up to like, well, I mean, it's Joel Embiid.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is not that. I mean, no offense to our guy Alpy here, but I mean, he got worked. But this was worse than the Embiid game. I mean, because there was a I don't want to say a level of quit in Wemby because I don't think he's the type of person to quit or type of player to quit, but this was just flat out, he's better than you. As opposed to, at least he kind of got his a little bit against Embiid. This was, again, you shouldn't base it off of last night, but you cannot be defensive player of the year and then have a game like you had last night in the first week of March. It's just not possible. And that's okay. And, I think Draymond has a great point in talking about the youth. We love to use the youth as something to boost Wemby. Oh, he's already this good despite being, this early, this raw, whatever. We can't then turn around and complain about it and say, well, he's only, in his first season, so we shouldn't expect much. No, we cannot talk out of both sides of our mouth. If we're going to anoint him, if we're going to talk so high about him, if we're going to say that at some point the defensive player of the year award is going to be retired in his honor, then he should not put up stinkers like he did last night in Houston.
You're not allowed to decrease consistently, but everybody has an off night. And, keep in mind, and I'm not making excuses for him because there was a moment when he got bitched with it was embarrassing. There was a moment where he was out on the court and he let Jalen Green just get to the rim, a layup, and he stood and watched it. And before it even began, Pop was standing up calling a timeout because he saw his guy had given up. I will say that. But what Wemby is doing is playing defense for 4 other dudes as well. This is as bad a defensive team as I've ever seen. And the fact that we are 24th is a testament to what he's doing. And to say that he is not the most defensive player in the league, the guy that when you get the scouting report, the very first thing you look at is what he does defensively. To tell me that, well, they're only the 24th. Dude, I can't imagine what it would be like without him. They'd be giving up 150 a night. So there's that. And then he's Wemby. He's the next. He is got a giant target. Don't you know Sanguine had this game circled? We talked about it. His coach had it circled. You're going to get him tonight. This is going to be your night. You're going to go through his chest. We're going to tell the TV types that's what you're going to do because that's what you're going to do. Embiid saw the same thing. Gobert sees it. You get the A game as a rookie when you're Wemby. So he's getting the very best every night, even on a Tuesday in Houston amongst two of the worst teams in the league, he was the focal point of that defense at 19. I'm going to give him a little bit of slack for a game last night where he was uninspired, and I think he's hurt. But apart from that, Draymond, you're wrong. He's flat wrong to say just because the defense team is poor that he is bad. You gave up 45 to Joel Embiid. I think that's okay. Last night, yeah, I'm mad at him. But
you killed him that day, day after.
No, he also had a triple-double himself.
But no, we're talking about a defense.
I was there. Yeah, everybody's going to give up 45 to Embiid when he decides to go get it. Nobody can stop that. Even the best defensive player in the world ain't going to stop Embiid when he's feeling it. Neither can I. I'm not going to hold last night against him, and I'm also going to say what he's also doing. He's averaging under 30 minutes a game, and he's still doing what he's doing. So Draymond, settle down just a little bit.
I think we're coddling Wemby a little bit. Just by not I think you're coddling him a little because it's okay to say that he's not Defensive Player of the Year. I'm with Ryan Eagle on this. It's okay that he is not the best ever, the most perfect, the most awesome, the most whatever. And it doesn't have to be one extreme or the other. The point isn't he's trash defensively, but dude, he got worked.
He did.
He didn't just lose. He got absolutely smoked. And there's a lot of chatter in the Brigade Bar about defensive stats, about when he's on the court, when he's not. When he was on the court last night was when the Spurs were arguably at their weakest defensively. It was that poor of a game from him. And those things will happen. Nobody is at all going to act like Wemby or Embiid or Jokic or whoever are going to be A-plus game all the time. That's not sustainable in life and sports and whatever. But it is okay to admit that the player we love dearly might not be the pinnacle peak version of himself quite yet. Nobody's feelings are going to be hurt. It's okay to say this. I promise.
It is okay to say it a night or two. Now, I will say if this continues, that we got an issue. Last night was his worst game as a pro, and he still almost fell ass backwards into a triple-double. His worst game as a pro. He didn't even go the free throw line. That tells you he was not in it. And it also tells you that the refs were allowing him to get worked. You're going to tell me he didn't get fouled all night? No, come on now. This is Victor Wembanyama. They're coming for him. So there was some other things at play. He wasn't in it. And the team came for him, and he was the epitome of one of the reasons that we looked down on European players for the longest time. Because those guys used to come over completely skilled. They had been practicing 12 hours a day for 18 straight years. They knew exactly how things would work on a basketball court until the games began and somebody put an elbow in their chest. And they didn't know how to react to the other stuff that's part of the American basketball game. And Wemby got Americanized last night by another Euro. He put a shoulder into him and owned him all night. Yeah, that was embarrassing. And Pop let him play 30 minutes of that. A sick player with a bad shoulder, Pop made him suffer. Put him in there for 30 minutes, and he was not a willing participant last night. So, yeah, price was paid.
I'm way more on board with that Pop, administration effort than I am the benching of Keldon or the benching of Jeremy or Wemby included last week. Like, those things felt really hollow. This felt legitimately like baptism by fire.
Yeah.
This felt like throw the kid in the deep end. You're going to learn to swim. I'm very cool with that because there will be something that I think you can learn. There's instructive, constructive criticism that you can develop as a result of getting worked like that. I don't think that that's as serious when you get benched in a losing effort in Utah, no matter what. So there are positive things to take away, like Rob, that the Spurs had 24 assists as a team.
121 just around the corner. The record could fall in Sacramento. I want to finish this topic with something that has started to float up. And this is an example of, I think, why the rest of the Wendy's, the Wojs, the Zach Lowe's are starting to really pay attention to the Spurs. Because last night, as we watched Alperen Şengün, the 16th draft pick. Well, he was a pick by the Thunder in 2021 and traded to the Rockets at the 16th pick. You know who the Spurs drafted that year?
I don't want you to tell me.
Josh Primo at 12. They passed on Alperen Şengün. Not that I would rather have Alperen than Wemby, because if we'd have gotten Alperen, as Easy E was very quick to tell me, if they had managed to do the right thing and draft Sengun at 12, we wouldn't have Wemby. I'll admit that. But I think it is an example of why the rest of the country is looking at the Spurs like, what's wrong with you guys? You've got Wemby and you're getting your ass kicked. And it's because your team sucks. You don't have any talent. Well, here's an example of why this 2021 draft set us back. Got nothing to show for it.
Well, it's an example of why the 3 years argument that Chuck offered is silly.
Yes.
Because the 3 years argument that you need to take 3 years is presuming you make every correct decision over the course of 3 years, right? Like you don't draft a Josh Primo at some point in there and set yourself back. Now, to your point, there's a domino effect. If you take Alpi, you may find yourself in a position 2 years later where you can't take Wemby or whatever. But that's why the idea of waiting 1,000 days is silly in an overall sense. I did want to just close on this with the defensive player of the year stuff. Wemby's odds were not impacted by Tuesday night. Well, I'm talking his literal odds.
Mm-hmm.
DraftKings on Tuesday morning had Rudy Gobert at -750 and Wemby with the next best odds at +750. So those have not moved, at least as of this moment in time. But on the Rudy Gobert front, I mean, if you do look at team performance from a defensive standpoint in percentage points difference, Minnesota is second. And so it's easy to support the Rudy Gobert's defensive player of the year argument, whereas the Spurs are, well, they're 24th. I mean, so that's
okay. The defensive player of the year or all NBA? What is more likely or most likely?
All NBA. Well, if you're talking about making a team,
mm-hmm.
It's, you know what I mean? Like he'll be on a team. The specific spot is up for determination, but I think that's much more likely at this point.
I would say if I was a voter, and I'm not, I would vote in third team All NBA and first team and rookie of the year and defensive player of the year.
I don't think I think the least deserving thing there is defensive player of the year. That's not to say he won't win 1 million of these before it's all said and done, but he's not there right now.